All right, today we are diving into the story of Clacker. Now, this is a being who was born for a very, very specific and final purpose. It's a story all about destiny, about exile, and really about what happens when a creature made for just one thing is suddenly forced to find a whole new reason to exist.
This right here, this is the line that defined Clacker's entire life. You know, before he ever learned to fight, before he learned to speak, he learned this one simple truth: he did not belong. This one sentence is the key to his whole journey. So let's unpack where it all started.
So, to get Clacker, you first have to get his home, the hive of the black carapace. And this isn't a community in any way we'd understand it. It's more like a biological machine. The creatures living there are drones, grown in resin wombs, not born. They have no individuality, no sense of self. Their every single action is dictated by a single will that they just experience as pure, raw instinct. But, no system is perfect. And that's where Clacker comes in. He was an anomaly. He was born male, something incredibly rare in this drone society. And from the moment his shell hardened in a slightly different pattern, he was marked. Sure, he was fed better food, he was taught history instead of just manual labor, but he was never one of them. He was a tool, being forged for a future he was never, ever going to be a part of. So, you gotta ask, how does a society like this even work? Let's dig into the laws that both created Clacker and then completely rejected him. Well, control in the hive isn't about speeches or written rules. Nope, it's biological. At the center of it all is the shell queen, the ancient heart of the hive. She basically projects her will as pheromones. So if the queen wants a new wall built, a drone suddenly feels an overwhelming instinctual hunger to build it. If she needs the hive defended, the drones are overcome with this paralyzing fear of an enemy. It's a perfect and totally inescapable form of control. And that explains why Clacker's education was so weirdly specific. See, he wasn't being raised, he was being programmed for a mission. Every single skill he learned was for a life outside the hive. He was taught combat to protect a queen he would never meet, survival to cross lands his hive would never see, and even speech to talk to beings his dronekin would never, ever encounter. He was a living archive, a weapon, and a seed for a new colony, all rolled into one. And here's the really crucial part: his profound, engineered isolation. While they gave him all this knowledge, they denied him any kind of connection. The hive made absolutely sure he had no attachments, no friends, no sense of belonging. Why? So that when the time came for him to leave, it wouldn't be a heartbreak. It would just be the next logical step in his function. And this brings us to the moment his entire existence had been building towards: the casting out. And you have to understand, this wasn't a punishment. It was the fulfillment of his destiny, just a cold procedural event. The ritual itself is just chillingly emotionless. He's chained up, he's led past rows of drones who beat their mandibles, not in sorrow, but in what seems like relief. A sigil is literally carved into his shell, a permanent mark branding him as an outsider. He's handed his tools, and then, without a single word, the gates slam shut. It's as impersonal as an assembly line kicking a product out the door. This was the Queen's final command. It wasn't spoken, of course, but embedded in a memory gland right under his shell. And notice the wording. It's not just go away. It's go, begin again. His purpose is crystal clear. He's supposed to replicate the hive, to extend its lineage somewhere new. His exile is actually an act of expansion. So, he's out. But the world beyond the hive's walls, well, it operates by a completely different set of rules. Now Clacker has to navigate a new life in a world of jarring, confusing, and maybe even terrifying freedom. I mean, the culture shock must have been immense. Think about it. On one side, you have everything he's ever known: absolute, total order dictated by biology. On the other side, you have the pure chaos of the outside world, a place where people argue about ideas. They make individual choices. And get this, their leaders aren't just born into power, they can be chosen. Can you imagine going from a world of pure instinct to one of pure debate? And this is the fundamental shift. The pheromones of his queen, that constant scent telling him what to do, eventually fade. And with them, the biological imperative that drove his every move is just gone. For the very first time in his life, he is faced with true agency. The path forward is no longer a straight line. Now he has to decide what to do with all the tools and training he was given. This realization changes everything. He starts to evolve from an exile just carrying out a function to a seeker with his own mission. And that brings us to our final section, the purpose he begins to forge for himself. So instead of blindly following that directive to begin again, he starts asking questions, and his new goals are totally transformative. He's not just trying to build another hive, he's trying to build a better one. He seeks out knowledge from failed hives, he looks for tech that could grant drones free will, and he wants to prove that a community can be strong without being cruel. This quote just perfectly sums up his new philosophy, doesn't it? He acknowledges his origin, he knows the purpose he was bred for, but he also claims his newfound freedom. He understands he's a tool for the future, but until that future actually arrives, he's going to be the one who decides how he's wielded. It's this powerful fusion of his innate purpose and his hard-earned free will. And that leaves us with the central question of Clacker's entire existence. Was he just a biological weapon, a seed designed for nothing more than colonial expansion? Or, by being cast out, was he actually given the chance to evolve into something else entirely? His story really challenges the very idea of purpose. Is it something you're given, or is it something you have to fight like hell to create for yourself?